All right, thank you for tuning in to Chompin at the Bit. This is episode 31. This episode, finally going to take a look at college football. You know, SEC, ACC, Big 12, other conferences have already gotten going. They have, several games under the belt. But with the Big 10 now getting started this weekend, Pac-12 is still, 2 weeks away. But kind of want to finally start looking at college football because I have seen fair share of ACC and SEC so far this year. So I'm going to go ahead and give you what I think is my playoff 4. As I talked about, I think episodes a while ago, college football is sticking with 4 playoff teams for this season, even though, I did say they should have probably expanded it for this COVID related season, but they decided to stick with 4. So I'm going to play the game. I'm going to go with my playoff 4 going into the Big 10 getting kicked off, and then Pac-12 still 2 weeks away, but we'll cross that bridge when we get there. So with the Big 10 starting this weekend, I'm going to look at kind of the major players in the Big 10 who have probably college football playoff aspirations, kind of see what their biggest question may be going into this season. And then just looking at it, could it be that maybe the Big 10 got started too late and none of the spots may be available for them? Something to think about. Definitely look at that by the end of the episode. But of course, as I'm starting to do, starting this week, I kind of start the episode off with, kind of a big story that's out there, and I kind of just give you my thoughts on it. So I guess, off the top, got to talk about probably the biggest news this week. Antonio Brown has surfaced again. He signed a 1-year deal with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers. Now, he's not eligible to play this weekend as he's still serving his 8-game suspension from some issues he had off the field and all that stuff. But yeah, so technically he's eligible to play week 9 against the Saints. There was some talk that the Seahawks were looking at him as well. And ultimately, he decided to go to Tampa Bay to play with Tom Brady again. They had that short stint with New England a couple of years ago. And Antonio Brown has said that he loved playing with Tom Brady, loved to play with him again. So here you are. He's now in Tampa Bay on a 1-year deal. So it's probably perfect timing for Tampa Bay. They have Mike Evans, who's playing, but you can tell he's still nursing a sore ankle. You have Scotty Miller, who, coming into this year, I'm sure you, like me, did not know who Scotty Miller was, but he's a big part of their offense. He's hobbled with a groin, I believe, hip injury as well. And then Chris Godwin, who just came back from a hamstring injury. So we don't know how close to 100% he actually is. So, Antonio Brown coming in could be a blessing for them. Because, I'm guessing Scotty Miller's probably going to miss some time or have a decreased playing time. Because, groin injury to a slot receiver, or actually any receiver in that case, not the best thing to have. And it's probably a good thing that, last week we started to see some energy out of Rob Gronkowski. So if he can establish himself as a passing threat yet again, then that makes the Tampa Bay offense a little better also. And if Gronk can increase his production, it will easily, shift the offensive focus from Mike Evans and Godwin as they're still rehabilitating and getting back. Gronkowski can become that maybe lead weapon or at least a complementary so that Evans and Godwin can have a little more space in the field. So as I said, it's Brady, Antonio Brown. They're reuniting again after their short stint with the Patriots. There's definitely some questions here. One, how does Antonio Brown going to look? It's been, 2 years since he's been on the field. He went through all that time where he was waiting to see what the league was going to do with him. Then they finally gave him the 8-game suspension, and he's been, off doing his own thing. But, he's not a young guy. He's 32. wide receivers, and especially a wide receiver that's based off of, downfield speed. 32 is not young, so I, definitely want to see what he looks like. But of course, he's had a couple of years off, so not that much wear and tear on his body. Second question is he going to make it the whole year? As we've seen lately, his end to his Steelers run, a lot of drama. He went to the Raiders, a lot of drama. You remember that? The helmet and this and that. Then him wanting to get out. He goes to New England. Everybody thought, well, this is a perfect spot for him. Drama happens. He starts having little issues with Robert Kraft, the owner, to the point where they had to let him go. So now he's in Tampa Bay. The outside looking in, it seems like Bruce Arians is probably going to be more forgiving towards him. And he said he loved Tom Brady, so being down there, not being a focal point, maybe this is the kind of situation that helps him get past whatever personality that he has that clashes with other people. Maybe he finds a way to have it work down there, and they can, I guess, ride this out to a deep playoff run. Maybe a run at the Super Bowl, who knows. But it will be interesting to see, if Mike Evans and Godwin come back and are, 100% healthy. You got a pretty dangerous receiving group with Evans, Godwin, Brown. I'm thinking they'll probably push Brown into the slot, leave Godwin, Evans out on the outside, but you'll have Brown in the slot, Gronk, on the end of the line, probably on the other side. You can even put Gronk on the slot opposite Brown if you're going to go like 4 wide, even though Gronk isn't that guy from the dominant years in New England. He can still make plays on the field, so, and that's just going to do wonders for Ronald Jones, who's having a good year in the backfield, while Leonard Fournette has been a bust so far for them. But all the more weapons you could get in the receiving game is the less people that defenses can put, down in the box. So then Ronald Jones should have open running lanes. This could make Tampa Bay a pretty formidable team going forward, as long as Antonio Brown keeps his head on and can get through the season. So Tampa Bay has become, a more interesting team going forward. I'm sure to any of you who thought Tampa Bay was going to be a Super Bowl team this year, a move like Antonio Brown probably furthers, your notion that they're probably a Super Bowl favorite. If you're one of those who thought that maybe there were some issues coming in and you're worried about the continuity with, Brady and Gronk being new to the situation, throwing in Brown, another new guy, could, knock back that continuity period another couple of weeks. I don't know. So obviously, Tampa Bay looks like the favorite going forward in that division, which that's always the first step. Win your division, get a high seed, get yourself a playoff game for the opening round in the playoffs. And then from there, you're just slowly going. Each playoff game takes on its own story situation, but you got to get that first one first. And this definitely helps them there. I mean, just looking at it, you could look at Tampa Bay as probably, if not the best team in the NFC, probably number 2, right up there, 1A, 1B with probably Seattle, or however you look at the NFC. If you still believe in Green Bay, there you go. Also, a quick side note with that. So I am going to keep going with the power rankings for, NFL before we go into each week. So like I said, this episode's going to be college football. So you'll get this one tomorrow as I'm recording this, Saturday night. But since I have, I guess, missed a couple of days, going to give you guys a second episode tomorrow, which I will do my NFL preview because I have not done that yet. I'm not going to miss that. Got to get my picks going and all that, so look forward to that with the power rankings as well. So this move definitely is going to change my top 10, and I may even do all 32 teams. Just kind of quick rundown of where each team is, but we'll worry about that next episode. So now, with that, that was the big news of the week. Now we can move on to college football. So, like I said, the teams that have played, we all know who the dominant teams are. Clemson, Alabama. They both look like they'll probably go through the year unbeaten. So that's probably your 1-2 right now in the playoffs. At least that's in my book. With Clemson, Trevor Lawrence is definitely playing like a guy who's going to be picked number 1 next year. Although, if the Jets are holding the number 1 pick, how does that make Trevor Lawrence feel? Trevor Lawrence has experienced Sam Darnold going there as a high pick, and what has happened? So I'm guessing Jets get number 1 pick. They go for Trevor Lawrence. I doubt Trevor Lawrence ever gets to see Adam Gase, so maybe that situation isn't as bad as it was going into this NFL season. But Lawrence has done nothing to let me, make me think he's not the number 1 pick next year. He throws a great deep ball. He's mobile. He'll get first downs with his legs. I did see him throw one pass in that Georgia Tech game where he kind of threw it off his back foot for no reason and it got picked. But he doesn't do that a lot, so he's pretty careful with the ball. And yeah, he gets the ball downfield. He also throws the intermediate throws. He can run RPO, or run pass option, if you didn't know, which is clearly where the NFL is going. They want mobile quarterbacks, RPO offense, create mismatches for then, try to confuse defenses. And he fits that perfectly. So Clemson seems like a lock as the 1 seed. They have a game against Notre Dame 3 weeks away. That may be their last real challenge. But yeah, I haven't seen anything that makes me think Clemson is not the number 1 team and will not be the number 1 team come playoff time. And as I said, number 2, Alabama. Alabama just had their biggest game, early on against Georgia. They went into the half down, but then came out in the second half, and they had their way with Georgia, so they're clearly the number 2 team to me. Let's see. So they did lose Jalen Waddle today. He hurt his ankle. He's out for the year, but it's Alabama. They have a lot of talent, wide receiving position, so I'm sure their offense may look a little different. They may rely on Najee Harris a little more, the running back, but they'll have other wide receivers who will step up. It's Alabama. It's a factory down there, so their next game, if anybody's going to try to upset them, next game might be their best chance, only because there's going to be some transition. They're going to have to play offense a little differently, but they are going against Mississippi State, so that's no big deal. And, the rest of their schedule, you would say the LSU game would be a big game, but LSU struggling this year. So their toughest game left might be the Iron Bowl against Auburn. But I'm expecting Alabama to probably run the table at this point, so they'll be locked in as a 2 seed. 3 seed, I'm going with Georgia, because it seems like with Georgia, as long as they're not playing Alabama, they're a really good team. So, it's not going to help. They finished 3, Alabama's 2. They'll just see Alabama again, first round of the playoffs. But it's hard to deny that Georgia didn't look good, at least for a half, against Alabama. Now, they do have some questions at quarterback right now. They went to, what's his name? Stetson Bennett the fourth, I believe is his name. I was kind of shocked by that. I thought they were going to go with JT Daniels, the quarterback they got out of USC, but I guess he wasn't ready, or clearly Bennett outplayed him in, the off season that they have down there. But now, kind of after the Alabama game, there are some questions about him and whether or not he should be the quarterback going forward. So we might see JT Daniels at some point this year. Not sure about that, but you don't want to have quarterback questions going right now, because Georgia still has a couple of games left on their schedule. They have Florida in a couple of weeks, where Florida's looked good so far this year, and Georgia already has that one loss against Alabama. With this crazy season that we're going to have, a 2-loss Georgia probably gets eliminated from the playoff, but we'll just have to see. Going forward, I do think, like I said, Florida is their toughest test. If they can get through that, get by with one loss, with the one loss being Alabama, they'll definitely make the playoff, no doubt. So those 3 spots I'm kind of comfortable with right now. The 4 seed, I put Notre Dame, but I feel like Notre Dame is kind of skating on thin ice with this one. And Notre Dame's toughest game is still 3 weeks away when they face Clemson. So, like I said, with Clemson being a 1 seed, you figure Notre Dame's going to lose that game. And as a 1-loss team, I would probably put them, down as a 4 seed. But then looking past that, they have North Carolina, which, depending on where North Carolina is at that point, North Carolina is the 12th, 14th ranked team right now. North Carolina has a very good offense. So, and Notre Dame has shown some instances where they struggle offensively at times. So, if they can get past, the Clemson game, if they were to pull that off, then Notre Dame's a lock. But I'm expecting Clemson to win that game. So then they really don't have any other losses to play with. So even right after the Clemson game, they have BC. Now, this may sound like a homer type pick, because I do follow BC, but Hafley has that BC team playing very well. He's come in. They actually have a legit pro-style quarterback in Jerkovic. So if Notre Dame plays the way they did against Louisville, where they won that game 12-7, this BC team will beat them. And if they go ahead and lose Clemson and BC back-to-back, they may fall into a tailspin, and that North Carolina game may be even tougher. They can end up losing that one as well. And they'll be, if they lose the BC after Clemson, they'll probably be out of the playoff anyway. But for right now, I will give them the number 4 spot. They have Ian Book, their quarterback, who, he is a guy who will probably get drafted next level in the NFL. But, they'll definitely have their biggest test, that Clemson game. For me, if they could beat Clemson, great. If they play Clemson tough, that will definitely work for them as well, as long as they don't get blown out. So, those are my top 4 before the Big Ten gets going. In the comment, you can let me know if maybe I left your team out in my 4. I'm guessing my top 3 might be the same for all of you. The 4 spot, there's other teams out there that you could convince me should have been there. I'm not going to fight you over that. If you want to say, I don't know, maybe some of you might say A&M, Oklahoma State. Sure, we can have that argument. But, like I said, those are my 4. Clemson, Alabama, Georgia, Notre Dame. Which is interesting. You'd have basically 2 SEC teams going against 2 ACC. Since Notre Dame is technically an ACC team this year. But I'm kind of doubting that's going to stay that way the whole way, because with the Big Ten going, there are some Big Ten teams that have their sights on making the college football playoff. So Big Ten, they're doing 8 conference games. No outside of the conference. 8 games, all conference. That's what they're doing. I think 8's good enough to get a good sampling of how good these teams can be. So if one of these teams can run the table, go 8-0, I think they'll be legit to get in the playoff. So for me, the top 4 teams in the Big Ten, you have Ohio State, obviously. Ohio State's that team that should crash the playoff 4 party. So Ohio State would probably knock Notre Dame out at this point. But with, Ohio State, it's Justin Fields. He's their most important player. He's the guy who will probably get drafted number 2 next year behind Trevor Lawrence. So if he can throw up a Heisman-worthy season, then Ohio State will be fine. Their toughest games on their schedule, they have Penn State next week, and they actually end their year with Michigan. But by then, Ohio State and Michigan could look completely different than this weekend. But I still think that should be a big game for them. So that's two opportunities right there for Ohio State to let the nation know how good they really are. And then with that, my second team is Penn State. James Franklin has turned that Penn State program around. You all know they went through all that with Paterno and Sandusky and all that, and it was tough up there for a while. But James Franklin has come in. He's brought them back to, winning ways. They're a team that feels like they can win the Big Ten every year. And then with that, they feel like they're a team that should be talked about in the playoff. So now Penn State did play today, and I do believe they lost. So that kind of knocks the shine off of the matchup next week with Ohio State. But if Penn State can turn around and beat Ohio State, then that at least can help them pick themselves up and start, fortifying their resume to possibly sneak into the playoff. So that, the loss today does hurt a little, but there's still talent on that team. With, Clifford, their quarterback. He's a decent quarterback. I don't know if he's a guy who's going to get, I doubt he's going to be a high draft pick NFL wise, but I think he's a quarterback who can play in the NFL. Yeah. So Penn State's my number 2 there. Wisconsin's that Big Ten team that you just know what you're going to get. They're going to probably, if it was a regular season, they'd probably go, 9-3, 10-2 type. And, they're just going to be a solid team that, I think Wisconsin's in the Big Ten. How do they divide their divisions? It's Big Ten North, Big Ten South? Or is it Big Ten East, Big Ten West? Yeah, Big Ten East, Big Ten West. That's what it is. So Wisconsin's on the other side from Ohio State and Penn State. And, that's going to definitely help them, as Wisconsin's going to, start their season off, I think, as the 14th ranked team. So they're right there in the middle. And just pull up their schedule real quick to see where, they already played Illinois, which that doesn't really tell you anything because Illinois isn't any good. But they blew out Illinois, so they have Michigan coming up in 3 weeks. That's going to be the first test for them. They then have Minnesota 2 games after that. Minnesota's a tough little team right now, and there are some analysts who think Minnesota can make some noise in the Big Ten this year. Actually, Michigan and Big Ten are playing tonight. They're one of the Saturday night primetime games. So definitely the winner out of that game will definitely have a leg up going forward. And since Wisconsin gets the both of them, if Wisconsin can beat both those teams, Wisconsin has a good shot at running the table as well. So, maybe Wisconsin becomes that team. If Ohio State gets tripped up, maybe Wisconsin becomes the highest ranked Big Ten team. Maybe they can slip into the playoff four. Then we have Michigan. I have Michigan as number 4 right now. Like I said, they're going against Minnesota. If Minnesota beats Michigan, then I could easily put Minnesota as the 4th best team in the Big Ten. But I'm a big believer in John Harbaugh. Now, here is my question though. When is John Harbaugh going to get that big win against Ohio State? Hasn't happened yet. Last year, a lot of people thought that was his best year to get him. He didn't. There's starting to be some, whispers about possibly Harbaugh going back to the NFL to coach. So, ultimately, if this is like his last year there, I'm sure Harbaugh wants to go out a bang. What bigger way to do it than to finally get that win with his alma mater against Ohio State, their biggest rival, walk off into the sunset, back to the NFL. And it's at the end of the year too. What better way to do it? So that's my question for Michigan. Can they get Ohio State finally? So there you are. Those are my top 4 teams in the Big Ten. Ohio State, Penn State, Wisconsin, Michigan. Probably should put Michigan / Minnesota, depending how that game shakes out tonight. So now, looking at that, I gave you my 4 from the playoff, gave you the Big Ten, gave you the Big Ten teams that are looking to get up in the playoff. But could it be that the Big Ten Pac-12 started too late and the playoffs could already be set? Now, I think 3 out of the 4 probably are. Well, there's 2. Yeah, Clemson, Alabama, you can basically lock those in right now. So now you have your 3-4 spots where, Big Ten teams, Ohio State, Penn State, and all that are fighting to get into. Pac-12, you have Oregon. And Oregon. I think Oregon's probably the Pac-12's best bet. But I wonder if the Pac-12 only playing, I think, 6 games. I don't know if that's going to be good enough to get them up there. So Pac-12, by waiting, may have shot themselves in the foot. But outside the Big Ten teams, you have, some Big 12 teams that are going to be looking to, crash the party. Like at Oklahoma State. You have A&M in the SEC. Cincinnati's a team, they're ranked number 9 right now. They play SMU tonight, which is actually a big game on the schedule because both those teams come in undefeated. And if Cincinnati can beat SMU, that's a big win on their resume. And once they get past SMU, the rest of their schedule is definitely winnable. So Cincinnati in the American Athletic Conference, if they can run the table, maybe they become, 4th seed in the playoff, depending, Notre Dame's season crashes and burns with, losses to Clemson or Clemson and BC and Notre Dame, or Clemson and and North Carolina. Sorry. So Notre Dame gets 2 losses, they're out. Georgia already has the Alabama loss. If Georgia's to lose to Florida, they'll probably be out. Cincinnati could be a team that can swoop in under the radar and earn a playoff spot. Miami's an interesting one. I don't know if Miami has anything on their schedule to really help them, though. They end the year with North Carolina, so they're going to they have to hope that North Carolina is a top ranked team, top 10 ranked team by that point, and Miami kind of stays around in the top 10. Maybe that's a win that can get them there, but other than that, I mean, North Carolina State, that's a decent win, but I think Miami would need too much help. They're probably too far down. But yeah, just going off the Big Ten teams, and then Oklahoma State, A&M. Maybe Florida can fight their way back up. Even Oklahoma State, luckily they're at number 5 or 6 already. And they got a win against Iowa State today, which Iowa State's 17th ranked. So, hey, it's a win against a ranked team. That's always good for the resume. Going forward, they have Kansas State, who's 20th ranked, but that's a couple weeks away. Hopefully Kansas State is still ranked at that point. They have Oklahoma coming up around Thanksgiving week. I mean, they'll definitely need Oklahoma to be ranked for that game. So Oklahoma State can get some ranked wins going forward, and they're already up near the top 4. That if Oklahoma State can run the table, it might be hard to keep them out. I gotta be honest with you. So top 2 spots are locked. The final 2 spots, you could have a group of, say, 2, 4, maybe 7, 8 teams fighting for those spots. And in this crazy year, that would be great for college football, because last thing college football will want is the top 4 spots to kind of be locked in before Pac-12 play gets started. Then you're just going off with weeks of meaningless football. So, I mean, that's my look at college football. It's been an interesting season. There's been some teams that have played way better than I thought they were going to be this year. And there's some top name schools that have struggled mightily this early in the season. I did mention when I was talking SEC a little bit, LSU. I mean, what's happened? LSU has been maybe one of the surprises. They've struggled, and I mean, maybe you can just throw this season out as COVID and all that. It's been crazy enough, but LSU was a team coming in that you thought was going to be a contender to Alabama and Georgia in the SEC. So yeah, early on, I mean, we're already up to week 8, but it's been an interesting college football season, and it's probably just going to get even more interesting going forward. But yeah, so there you are. So my 4 playoff teams. Gave you the Big Ten stuff. Definitely once Pac-12 gets going, we'll talk Pac-12. I kind of think they're going to be too late to the party to really make any noise, but hey, I'll give them their fair shot. We'll go over that, but let's see if there's anything. No, that's it. So, definitely thanks. Hope you enjoyed what you heard. As I said, I gave you my playoff 4. Definitely in the comments, you can tell me if you agree with my 4, how you would change up my 4, or if you just have a completely different 4, let me know. And do you agree with me that the Pac-12 is probably out of the running already without even getting started, and the Big Ten may be a little bit behind the 8 ball, but I think an undefeated Big Ten team can definitely get into the playoff? And what do you think about Antonio Brown with the Tampa Bay Buccaneers? Do you think it's the rich getting richer, or maybe they've overdone it and brought in too much talent for one football? I don't know. You let me know. But going forward, as I said, this episode will be up Sunday morning, and then I'll give you a second episode on Sunday before the NFL kicks off, where I'll give you my NFL preview, give you the rest of my picks. Definitely got to do that. Give you power rankings going into Sunday and Monday's games, and we'll see if any games get flexed out by then. Any COVID positive tests or anything. But yeah, so with that, I want to thank you guys for listening. As I say with every episode, like the Facebook page. You can follow this show on Twitter at Chompin Podcast. If you want to go there, you will get notified when a new episode is uploaded, as well as you can submit your topics there, questions, comments as well. You can hit up the YouTube page. It's actually on my YouTube page, Kyle Edwards, and then you'll see all the Chompin' at the Bit episodes there as well, or anywhere else you listen to podcasts. Google Podcasts, Apple Podcasts, Spotify, iHeartRadio. It's out there. So yeah, if you're new, appreciate you for giving me a try. Hope you'll definitely come back for other episodes, or go back and listen to, some of the first 30. And then all of you who have been with me, definitely appreciate you. And as I say all the time, we're going to keep this going. I'm trying to do at least 5 a week, but I would not be against doing one every day for you guys. So, because, sports aren't going away. There's always going to be news. I haven't even touched on some of the NBA offseason stuff yet. There's news out there. I'll definitely work that in as well. But thanks again. Be safe, everyone. And, I'll catch you in the next episode. All right.